Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Debbie, I read a lot, I sing a lot, and today I thought I'd do something a bit different because I'm currently binge watching American Horror Story, and I kind of wanted to share kind of my feelings and the things that I went through while I was watching them. I did it in the wrong order. Well, to be fair, there'll probably be a new order by the time it all finishes. I started with watching Coven. The main reason I started off with Series 3 was because that was the season that Kathy Bates joined the cast. I adore Kathy Bates. I think she's absolutely incredible. It's like an anthology series, basically have like the same core group of actors that go between all the seasons. Each season covers a completely different story and different characters, though. Because I started off at Series 3, then went to Series 4, which is the Freak Show, and then I went back to Season 1, which was Horror House? Is it Horror House? Murder House. Because of the order I did it, I saw the reoccurring characters before the order that most people would have done, if that makes any sense. There's a character in Season 2, which is Asylum, who is also in Series 4 Freak Show, but Freak Show happens before the events of Season 2. So if you don't watch American Horror Story, that probably sounds really, really confusing. I think by the time that American Story actually finishes, there'll actually be a new order so that you can actually watch it chronologically, because there are other characters that kind of pop up and are in other seasons. So as we are talking, I have just started Roanoke, and because of the way I feel about it, I thought it would be an idea to kind of go through and think about the seasons. Even though I started off with Season 3, which was Coven, I am going to start my reviews from Season 1 just so that there's a bit of sense to it. Season 1, Murder House. I really, really enjoyed Murder House. I think it's because I've always had a thing about haunted houses, which is essentially what Murder House is. You start off, you've got this family, the husband cheated and they decide to renew their life in a really spooky house in Los Angeles, and this house is on a murder tour of Los Angeles. It's on like people know it as being a very, very haunted house, and yeah, I love the whole concept of that, and the fact that that was the first season and seeing how kind of they build upon the storylines and stuff. Starting off with just a classic murder house, horror house story was just a really, really good way to get the ball rolling when it comes to American Horror Story. It centres on the Harmon family, so you've got Dr. Ben Harmon, his wife Vivian. Ben Harmon cheats on his wife in the first episode, and then they relocate with their daughter Violet. They move from Boston to Los Angeles after Vivian has a miscarriage and Ben has an affair. So all of it, I really hated Ben. I think there were times when I got a little sympathetic to what he was going through, especially when the girl that he had an affair with popped up and I thought she was a psycho. It won a total of 17 Emmy nominations. 17 Emmy nominations. Jessica Lange won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress for this, which I completely understand because she was fucking brilliant in it. I'll admit, because American Horror Story had been on for 3 seasons by the time I actually joined it, and as I said, you know, the main reason I decided to watch it was because Kathy Bates had joined the cast, and I just got a huge spot for Kathy Bates. I'm currently binge watching a lot of Kathy Bates things at the moment. I recently watched Disjointed, which is a Chuck Lorre sitcom, but it was made for Netflix, which is absolutely hilarious. So if you're looking for a good comedy series which isn't regulated by television censorship, it's on Netflix. It goes a bit further than the Chuck Lorre sitcoms that are on TV. I really enjoyed Disjointed, so I'm going to pop that out there for other Kathy Bates fans. So going back to the first season, obviously Kathy Bates isn't in it, but the main reason I started watching it was because of Kathy Bates, and then through watching that series I realised, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And when I say as bad, it's because I used to be really, really bad with like guts and gore and horror. If you'll ask me, I'm not the biggest horror fan. Every single year I try to watch a classic horror movie. Last Halloween that was 2020 Halloween. I watched Psycho in full, which I'd never done, and I obviously enjoyed it. I have realised through watching these that my guts and gore level is lower or higher, which it depends on which way you see the scale. Basically, used to really kind of creep me out and stuff, and there's still some things I can't handle, and apparently there's something in Roanoke which might get to me.
Editing Debs here, just to say that yes, something towards the end of Roanoke made me feel like I was going to throw up. Back to the video.
Through it, I realised that I'm not as jumpy as I thought I would be. I'll admit there was an episode in the first season when I was just like, oh, this person gets everything that's coming to her, because she ran to the basement. There might be some people out there saying, oh, but she had no choice. It was just like, no, you always have a choice. You either barge through the door and get out of the house, or you're the idiot that runs to the basement where there's no way to get out. So yeah, when this character ran to the basement while she was being chased by ghosts and things, it was just like, oh god, if you die, I don't feel sorry for you. It's weird how a television show can get you into that point of just like, yeah, this person just deserves to die now because they're just doing everything wrong. But yeah, I really like the concept of it. There's rape in it and murder, so, you know, it's one of those things where it's just like, if you know what your triggers are, it's always a good idea to research things before you watch it, because, you know, and with it being a horror anthology series, there's lots of stuff there that could be triggers for people. So I just say do your own research, just be aware that I think most of the seasons at least most of the seasons so far, have had quite a fair amount of sexual violence going on. So I'm just trying to word that right. I couldn't believe the amount of people that were in the first season who I knew who they were. Because it's like there was Kate Mara in it as the girl that the Doctor has an affair with, Zachary Quinto's in it, Eric Stonestreet from Modern Family, and it's just like, it's just got a ridiculous cast in it, and they're all absolutely fantastic. And it feels quite a versatile cast as well. Yeah, the story, I just really, really enjoyed the story, just because I do have a thing about haunted houses, and I like the way that, in a way, even though it seems weird to say no spoilers when it's been on for so long, but I don't want to completely destroy it if there's anybody watching this who's watching it to get an idea or a feel of the series without getting too many spoilers. But I will say that it seems like quite a common theme that everybody gets their happy ending in a way at the end of the season. It's just like the bad people gets what's coming to them, and the people who were generally good people get what they deserve. So the way it all ended was quite a nice way to do it. Though I'll admit, for the first season, there were some baddies that got what was coming to them, and then there were some other baddies who I was just like, have they really learnt the lesson? I think it's also because it portrays nearly everybody as a flawed human being. You know, it's obviously that there's bad people in there, but because you look at everybody's stories individually through it, it really gives you that full picture of, oh, this person isn't just like this because they can be. You know, there's a story that led them to this place. When it comes to like horror films, because you only have a set amount of time with them, you don't always get the full backstory of why they are the way they are. But with a series like this, you've got, 12 episodes in the first season for you to really understand everybody and get everybody's story. It was just so good, really clever. It's from the people who did Glee. It's bizarre to think it's actually from the people who made Glee, because it's just like the complete opposite to what Glee was. You know, when you think of Glee as being like musical theatre, Glee Club, and then you got American Horror Story, and it's just an anthology series dedicated to honouring classic horror movies, and even mixing a bit of real life horror stories in there as well. Like in the first season, there's mentions of like the Black Dahlia. Other seasons have touched upon like real life stories as well, so it's a way to make it even realer as well. Even realer? But I guess that with a name like American Horror Story, it's the fact that it's not just a story. The fact that you do have those real life elements to remind you that this isn't complete fantasy, it's not completely made up. And when you are looking at that, yeah, it's just a really interesting concept, is the fact that in this house you've got ghosts of nearly all the former residents. I felt like when I was watching the Hotel season, that Hotel had elements of Murder House. Obviously, as you go on through Hotel, you realise it's not exactly the same, but it does have elements of it, and I'll probably talk about that more when I'm actually focusing on that season. It also really puts a stamp on the actors and their abilities, lays kind of the stepping stones of what's going to be coming later. Yeah, I just thought it was brilliant. Connie Britton as Vivian just blew my mind, because it's just like, I remember Connie Britton being on Spin City. I think that was probably the first thing I ever saw her in. Violet's storyline, oh god, that really blew my mind. Again, I'm not going to say too much about it because it spoils certain things, but when, was it about halfway through the season, something happens to Violet, and then about 2 or 3 episodes later it's kind of turned on its head, and you're just like, oh shit. You know, I should have seen it coming. I'm just gonna a sip of my tea. I think it's Frances Conroy as Moira, who's kind of like the maid that kind of comes with the house, and as you go through that storyline, and I thought it was really clever how she appeared as somebody completely different to the men. So she was this elderly maid to all the women that saw her, and then to the men who had a certain subject on their mind, she appeared as a young, sexy maid. And the way that they kind of spliced that together with the idea of, you know, this young maid kind of enticing the men in the house, and then you'd see her coming out of a room after being like a maid to flirt as the young one, and then you see her come out of the room as this elderly woman, and it's just like, you're just reminding me that this is the same person, supposed to be the same person. The relationship between all the characters is kind of disturbing. Sarah Paulson is kind of the, I won't say psychic, she speaks to the dead. To be fair, she played a similar character in Hotel again. Kind of makes you wonder if it's supposed to be the same person. I'm not sure. Is it supposed to be the same person? This is what happens when you watch stuff out of order. And the fact that the series is technically done out of order. Murder House is in modern day. The next season, the one in the psychiatric hospital, goes back to, is it like the 50s or something? I want to say it's like the 50s or the 60s. Seeing the relationship between Dr. Harmon and his wife and his patients and the woman he had the affair with, it really does make you hate him. There's certain points when you just think, he's asking too much of his family. So when it came to the end, it was just like, I don't know if this really truly is a happy ending. I mean, technically it is a happy ending for the family, but for him, there's a certain point when you realise that he has kind of learned his lesson a bit, and that's the point when you realise that he can no longer see the young maid and he starts seeing the older maid, and that's the point when, because I think even the maid at that point says, oh, you've finally woken up. Speaking about it like this, it probably makes absolutely no sense. But you know, the character that I felt the most sorry for in the whole of Murder House is the woman trying to sell the house. Because throughout the whole season, in the first episode you see her trying to sell the house. There's a point when they try to put the house on the market because they're just like, why are we still here when we know this place is haunted? And so she tries to sell the house, and then at the end of the season, without telling you exactly what happens, she's trying to sell the house again. And nearly every single time she's trying to show families around this house, the murder tour goes by and she's just there going, oh, for Christ's sake, am I ever going to get rid of this house? And the fact that it's the same woman every single time trying to sell this house, and you just feel so sorry for her. And at the same time you just think, why? Why have you just not given up and just tried selling it to somebody who will just advertise it as just a horror house. Because the fact is, a lot of people might think of a horror house as being something that is just dedicated to Halloween. But to be honest, for a house like that, I think it would be a great tourist attraction throughout. And it would mean that they wouldn't have to worry about families living in it. Oh, I can hear my niece on FaceTime downstairs. My niece has to isolate because there was an outbreak at her nursery. It was a shame. It's only, is it like 10 days? I know the isolation time's gone down, so I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, Murder House. Oh, everything feels so loud in this room. But yeah, so that's American Horror Story, Murder House. So, next time I will be talking about, what was the second season called? Asylum. I keep thinking of it as like psychiatry because it's kind of there. But yeah, the next season is Asylum. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I'm still singing, I'm still reading my books, just being a bit slower at the moment because things are starting to open up again. Seeing a slight end in sight. I might not be far off my own inoculations and things, so yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I'm going to finish my cup of tea, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. As I said, I'll be doing this for the other seasons of American Horror Story, and I kind of want to do a bit of kind of like a what I'm watching, because I feel like I've watched a lot of things through lockdown. I've been binge watching a lot of things, and so I thought it'd be a nice way to kind of analyse the things that I'm watching as well as reading. But yeah, so again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week with another video. Stay safe.